Good evening. My name is Councillor Amrit Mann and I'm the chair of the Planning Committee. It's just a touch over 5 o'clock and I would like to welcome you all to this virtual meeting of Hounslow's Planning Committee. I would like to welcome the members of the committee who are sitting this evening, as well as council officers who will be assisting members throughout the meeting. In addition, I would like to welcome members of the public who are watching this meeting at home. The way this meeting will work will be that as chair, I will be running the meeting and I will be inviting people to speak. As it is very easy for people to speak over each other in this meeting like this, I will ask each member or officer to speak in turn at the appropriate stage. This will mean that there should normally be no need for people to interrupt or ask to speak. However, I shall make sure that members have ample opportunity to ask questions and make comments on the reports and applications before them. The exception to this arrangement will be the legal, committee or planning officers who may turn on their microphones to alert me to any legal, governance or planning issue that needs addressing, although I would expect this to be a rare occurrence. In addition, we have a producer of the meeting from our ICT department who may also contact me if necessary, but it is unlikely if all goes well, as we hope it will. The etiquette for members of the committee and for officers who are expecting to speak will be to mute your microphones unless you're asked to speak. So I can hear some microphones, so if we can mute all the microphones, that'd be really good. This means that only one person will be speaking at a time and there will be no background noise, making it easier for us to follow the meeting and for all those watching at home as well. I will also ask members always to say who they are when they are making a contribution and to speak slowly and clearly for the same reason. We have 5 members of the planning committee with us here this evening, and it is we who will be making the decisions. Officers of the council will provide assistance and advice as required, but the final decision will be made by the members. So, going on to introductions, I would now like to introduce each of the members here tonight one by one. I will start. My name is Councillor Amrit Mann and I am the chair of this committee. I am also the ward councillor for Heston East Ward. Can I ask now Councillor Richard Foote to introduce himself? Richard?
Hi, I'm Councillor Richard Foote. I'm vice chair of the committee and I am a representative from Hamworth Ward.
Thank you, Richard. Councillor Michael Dennis, please introduce yourself.
Good evening. Yes, my name is Councillor Michael Dennis. I'm on this committee as a member and I am the Conservative Councillor for Chiswick Riverside Ward.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Councillor Bishnu Grung, please introduce yourself.
Hi, good evening. This is Councillor Bishnu Gurung. I'm the member of the Planning Committee and I'm also the representing Hanout Park Ward. Thank you.
Thank you, Bishnu. Councillor Guy Lambert, introduce yourself, please.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Guy Lambert. I'm a member for Ward and a member of the Planning Committee. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Guy. Councillor Hina Mir is not with us. She might join us later, but we'll ask her to introduce herself as and when she arrives. So let me move on to my officers. Can I ask Matthew Rees to introduce himself, please?
Good afternoon, my name is Matthew Rees. I'm the Head of Development Management and I'll be presenting one of the items this evening.
Thank you, Matthew. Can I ask now Anissa Aboud to introduce herself?
Thank you, Chair. My name is Anissa Aboud and I'm one of the planning officers presenting an item tonight.
Thank you, Anissa. Sam Smith to introduce himself, please. Sam?
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, everyone. My name is Sam Smith. I'm the Deputy Area Planning Manager for the West of the Borough and I'll be presenting Agenda Item 7 this evening.
Okay, thank you, Sam. And Kieran Coughlin, please, to introduce himself.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening. My name is Kieran Coughlin and I'm a Transport Officer with the Council.
Thank you. I would also like to ask officers representing legal and governance to introduce themselves. Patrick Kelly. Patrick?
Good evening, my name is Patrick Kelly and I'm the legal advisor for this evening's meeting.
Thank you, Patrick. And Wendy Merry?
Good evening, I'm Wendy Merry and I'm from Democratic Services.
And Chazbal Sandhu, introduce yourself, please.
Good evening, I'm Chaspal Sandhu and I'm here from Democratic Services.
Thank you, Chaspal. We also have officers acting as a producing role for the technical side of the meeting, but as they're not expected to be involved in the discussion of this meeting, I will thank them for their help but not ask them to introduce themselves. But they are. Forgot their names. Peter Hendy and Amy. So thank you very much for that. Let me move on.
Chair, can I just I'm not seeing any live pictures. I don't know if I'm alone in that, but
well, I mean, maybe we want to bring in the ITT producers much earlier on. Peter, any
from this end, it's okay. So it must be from Councillor Richard's end.
Okay.
Unless anyone confirmed that differently.
Well, shall we continue? And if we run into difficulty, then we'll stop at that point. Yeah. So unless somebody can, verify what Peter said or what Richard has said. So let me move on to the further information side of things, right? So we can stop at any time. Members of the public are reminded that the agenda and all the reports being considered by this committee tonight can be found on the council website under the planning committee meetings page. So if you want to see them, that is where to look. I also want to make sure that all members have seen the agenda and the reports. Please speak now if you've not had them. I would assume that everybody's had them. Okay, that's fine. I would like to remind members of the need to hear all the evidence in each report we are considering tonight. This is a legal requirement, and I'll be asking you to confirm you've heard the whole debate before you vote on any matters this evening. So if you should find that you're having technical problems and need to log out of the meeting and come back in, please let me know immediately, ideally beforehand, but if not, afterwards by turning on your microphone. This would be a permitted interruption. We can then decide how far we need to recap, if that is necessary, or if the member needs not to vote on that item. Finally, I would say to any member of the public listening or watching, thank you for joining us this evening. We hope that this meeting will go well, but any virtual meeting may suffer from unexpected technical hitches, so please bear with us if that does happen. I should also clarify that this meeting is being recorded and it will be made available on the council's YouTube channel in the next few days. Contributors to the meeting are asked to remember that they will therefore be included in the recording of this meeting. Thank you, and we will now move on to the first item of the agenda. Apologies for absence. I've not had any, but I assume that Councillor Mir is probably en route, and we'll pick that up as and when she joins. So moving on to agenda item 2, declarations of interest under the Town Planning Code of Guidance or any other communications from members. Does any member need to make a declaration or any other communications? If so, please speak now. If there's more than one, I will let you know the order to speak. Is there any member that wishes to declare interest? They've had some emails or something along those lines, which we normally have. I would take it as given that we've had emails and correspondence to that respect. If people have had visitations, that's something different. So maybe you want to say that yourself. Has anybody else got any declaration to it? Councillor Michael Dennis, then Councillor Bishnu Gurung. Michael.
Thank you, Chair. I visited Chiswick Health Centre on Monday. Had a look around.
Okay, that's fine. And Councillor Bishnu Gurung.
Thank you, Chair. I have a communication with item number 4, 5, and 6, and I also invited for the council visit the area, but I had no time to go, so I didn't go.
Okay, that's fine. Councillor Guy Lambert.
I think I should declare I'm a regular visitor to the Fishes Lane Health Centre because that's where my doctor is. So I guess that represents an interest in its own right.
Okay, just to find out the nature of the interest, Patrick, you've heard Councillor Guy Lambert. Does that interest affect in any way his right to vote?
Thank you, Chair. I mean, I think that's someone using a facility that wouldn't be prejudicial. Just the Councillor Lambert can confirm that he's approaching it in an open mind anyway, the application, so that'll be helpful.
Okay, thank you, Patrick.
Chair, I just declare I was, or am, was a member of the Concord Club when it was the staff club for British Airways staff, but I think that's no longer. There was a small attachment there up until recently, but I don't think even that's there now.
Okay, so Councillor Lambert, you've got clean bill of health, and like you, Richard, I think that was probably some time ago, if I remember the Concord Club myself. Yeah. So I don't think the interest would have any impact on your right to vote. So that's fine. Just to bring it up to date, had a text from Councillor Hina Mir. She sends her apologies. So if those apologies are to be noted under agenda item 1. Now we can move on to agenda item 3, which is the meeting of the committee held on the 4th of March 2021. They're on pages 3 to 5. I will take corrections and matters arising together. So may I ask members to go through pages 3, pages 4, and pages 5. Is there anything that jumps out or anything that needs to be added in or matters arising on any one of those pages, or are they agreed? Anything there, colleagues?
No.
No. Okay. So may I ask our members to agree the minutes, which we've just done, and I would normally sign a physical copy of the minutes, but as this is currently impractical, I shall ask the committee officer to ensure that I'm provided with a paper copy to sign either by post when it's possible to attend Hounslow House. In the meantime, the minutes will formally record that we've agreed the minutes as a correct record of the last meeting. Okay, moving on to the planning substantive agenda. We now move on to the planning application for decision.
According to Wikipedia, the London Underground is a rapid transit system serving Greater London and...
Very good, very good. We're enlightened to hear that. But let me carry on with the meeting. Where we need to make time contributions, I will ask the legal officer to alert me to when allocated timings have been reached, and they are given 5 minutes. So whether you're an objector or an applicant or speaking against, you'll be given 5 minutes, and you'll be alerted, I think, 30 seconds before the end time by the legal officer. I will also ask him to alert prior to the guillotine being reached if we have not concluded the meeting by that time. May I remind all members, officers and public speakers at this meeting to introduce themselves each time they speak, and also to turn off their microphones when they have finished speaking. It is also important to speak slowly and clearly so that everyone can understand what you're saying. Finally, if you are making reference to any agenda documentation, please give the page and paragraph details. Okay. So, as a lot of the colleagues know, but there's protocol for speakers. So let me just run through that for our people who are joining us from home or those that are going to speak. So the process for an application will be with speakers as follows. The officer will make a presentation on the report, and members will be asked to ask questions of the officer. If there's a ward councillor speaking, I will invite the ward councillor to speak first. This is not the case on any one of these, but members will have an opportunity to ask the councillor. I will invite the objector to collectively speak for 5 minutes in total. Members will then have a chance to ask questions of the objector. I will then allow the applicant to make their presentation for up to 5 minutes in total. Members will then similarly get an opportunity to ask questions of the applicant. Officers at the end will then mop up if there's any outstanding issues members may have, or any additional points that have been raised and that need to be addressed. Members will then be able to make comment and debate on the application. Then we'll go to a vote. So,
sorry, Chair, can I just interrupt you just for a second? I think Councillor Mir has sent a message saying that she's in the meeting. Can we just check? Ask if she's here.
Okay, so I'm just she sent a she's a lateness for the meeting now. Okay, so I had the one where she'd send her apologies, Let me just quickly check whether she's in the meeting.
She may be on the phone, so she may just need to introduce herself.
Okay, Hina, can you hear us? Hello? Casimir, are you on the phone?
You just need to press *6 on your phone to unmute if you're on the phone.
This is the wonders of virtual meetings. We'd rather have people face to face, wouldn't we? We can see them when they're physically there. Hina, if you can hear us, press *6 to unmute yourself and let us know that you're in the meeting. Then we can carry on. Let's give her a couple of minutes. Otherwise, what we will have is she will not be able to vote on the first item. Okay, so she sent it to say okay. So she's going to try to unmute herself on the phone. We'll wait for her to do that, and then we will start the substantive agenda, in which case she can participate in the vote. Hello, Hina, can you hear us? Hello. I'm sorry, I'm typing. Okay. So Hina is typing. Let's wait her to finish her typing and then.
No, sorry, I think she says she's trying, Chair.
Yeah, Chair, can I just advise I'm still unable to receive any live pictures? Okay.
So I'm going to throw that, Richard, at Peter Hendy and Amy.
Hi, Richard. I would suggest to come out of Teams and then come back into the meeting. You're on mute, Councillor.
Sorry, yes. Yeah, I'll do that now then. I'll go out and reboot, come back.
Okay, we'll give you that a couple of minutes to do that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. As all members now quietly waiting in anticipation of a further 2 members before we start the substantive meeting. Peter Hendy, is it worth pausing the live broadcast while we get Richard
on a live broadcast? We can't pause it, but you can come off the camera, but we can't actually pause it.
Okay, not to worry. Let it run. Yeah, because this is the nature of this live game. So we got Richard back in here. Richard, we can see you. Can you just test your microphone?
Yeah, still not seeing any live pictures. No.
No. Okay. Well, look, let's leave that to Peter.
Hi, Councillor Richard. Even though you can't see the live pictures, we can still hear you and see you. So yeah, on our side, it's fine. So don't worry, we can still hear you, and that's the main thing, and see you.
As long as you're not slipping up any rude messages about me that I can't see, I'll be okay with that.
You'll be all right, Richard. Don't worry.
Don't start making hand signs.
Okay. Have we worked out whether Hina Mir has joined us on the phone or not?
I'm afraid we haven't, Chair, until she can make sure that we can hear her. We can't really take what she's typing into the chat for any decisions or anything. We need to be able to hear her.
Okay. I think then
she's just sent a message to say, let me sort this and rejoin. So I presume she's going to leave and try again.
Okay. Shall we hang on for her, or shall we just continue? I think. No.
Yeah, that's your call as chair.
Okay, well, let's give her a few minutes, because once we kick off, then because the first item is to do with people speaking, I don't want her to be in a position where it takes a long time and she still hasn't been able to have the right to vote. Okay, we'll give her a couple of minutes. Reboot her system. I know that sometimes I've fallen foul of the same thing, where the IT refuses to help me out. This is the nature of virtual meetings. We are held to ransom by the IT people, or IT companies, should I say, the internet providers. I would take it that the IT function is okay with all the other officers. We don't want to lose you in the process.
Yeah, I believe so, Councillor.
Okay, that's good. Good, especially at the start of the meeting. Okay, I think what we need to do is we need to move on, yeah, because this is taking a bit too long. So she's had more than 5 minutes on this. Okay, right. So let's go on to the substantive agenda. Item 4. We've got speakers on this item, but we're going to ask Matthew Rees, the officer, to do a in-depth presentation. So Matthew, off you go, and if Hina joins in that process, then we'll see and ask legal advice. But you, for the moment, start with your presentation. Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you, Chair. Hopefully you're seeing my presentation on the screen at the moment. This is Chiswick Health Centre, just north of Chiswick High Road, about 200 metres to the east of Turnham Green. I'm hoping most people know roughly where we are. Just to give you some bearings in terms of future conversations, Dolman Road runs to the south. You can't actually see it on the plan that I'm showing at the moment, but it's Fisher's Lane that's to the east of the health centre, and if I may, I'll draw your attention to those properties within Fisher's Lane just to the north of the health centre, because that's going to be subject of some conversation when we hear from the objectors. So this is a proposal to demolish the existing health centre and erect a new health centre in its place with 55 new affordable rent council homes. The situation is that the Hounslow CCG have established that this health centre is not meeting relevant standards, so they're saying that patients aren't receiving the level of care that would be expected, hence the need to replace the health centre, and the homes, the new units are there to finance the redevelopment of the site. They have planning permission for a 5-year temporary use of the health centre on Stamford Brook Avenue, so they've got plans in place for an alternative site while these works take place, should they receive planning permission tonight. So I'm going to go on to some photos. this is looking from the south of the site, Dolman Road, towards the existing building, and then Arnott Close runs to the rear of the building, so just along the northern side there. So you're looking at the two-storey structure that's in situ at the moment. Moving around the site, Arnott Close again is to the north of the site, and you're looking at into the rear of some properties on Curtin Close. Then we're back onto Dolman Road, looking towards the existing building from its southern side. Again, the rear of the building from Arnott Close, so that's the northern side, the back of it, and then properties within Arnott Close on the right hand side there. Fisher's Lane now, so these are properties fronting onto Fisher's Lane, which is the road that runs to the east of the application site, and then that photo on the right is towards the back of properties in Chiswick High Road. And I've added this from Google Maps because I like the panorama view that it gives you. You're looking at the first property to the south of Fisher's Lane to the right of that picture, and then the Chiswick Health Centre as existing stands to the left. It just gives you a feeling of what the separation between the two properties is. As I say, that's going to come up when we hear from speakers. This is a isometric view of the proposed building. So you were looking at a building that's 4 stories on the eastern end, which is the Chiswick Health Centre itself, and then 6 stories as it moves to the west of the site, which is to accommodate the 55 new homes. There's a central courtyard area which includes amenity space, and there is also some rooftop amenity space on there, which will be shown when I get onto the floor plans. Some more views, pictures of what it would look like. So this is from Dolman Road. This is the south of the site, looking to the entrance of the Chiswick Health Centre as it would be. Again, Chiswick Health Centre with the new properties just to the west, and you can see the views between the buildings there. A better view of the new dwellings, which is 6 stories in height, and then a site plan, which I won't linger on again, other than just to point out, if looking at the proximity of the properties to the north of the health centre, and indeed the properties to the east and the west, just to give you a feel of where they are in relation to each other. And then the ground floor plan's a bit of a close-up. Again, health centre to the east, you can see 8 parking spaces in the building on the north east hand side, and then the new dwellings to the west. On the left of that picture, the far west of the site, you'll see also a new area of park. So that's amenity space to serve the new units. That's in place to ensure that there's sufficient communal amenity space for the future residents of the properties. And then moving up, first floor plan, you can see the podium level amenity space for the houses. Moving up again, we're now on the 2nd floor, so this is the upper floor of the health centre and another level of homes. And then the 3rd floor is the top of the health centre, which includes this external amenities area that you can see to the top right hand corner of the site. And then another level, 2 levels of new dwellings and some solar panels on the roof. And then the elevations, this is what they look like. So this is the southern side, looking towards the dwellings on the left and the health centre on the right. A view from the eastern elevation, so from Fisher's Lane, so you're purely looking at the health centre there. What I'd do is I'd note that it's 4 stories, stepping down to 3 stories with the rooftop amenity space on the right hand side of that picture. And then you've got properties you can see on Fisher's Lane to the far right of that picture, the plan. Now we are looking at the north elevation, so this is from the side of Arnott Close and Fisher's Lane. Again, you'll note on the left hand side this time is the new health centre with 3 stories stepping up to 4 stories, and then the 6 stories of the new homes. West elevation, purely new homes, and then just some visuals through the property, showing again, looking at the scale of it in relation to neighbouring plots. Again, so this is this is the east and west elevations, and then the north and south elevation sectional views, and the east and west sectional views. That concludes my presentation. There is 83% reduction in carbon below Part L of building regulations. It's a good level of sustainability. It's a PTAL site of 5, so good public transport accessibility level. So the parking spaces are for the new health centre. It's a car-free scheme proposed for the new units, and I might conclude it there if that's okay, and leave it open to questions after we've heard representations from members of the public and the applicants.
Okay, thank you, Matthew. going through to the questions. So starting with Councillor Richard Foote, questions to Matthew on his presentation.
Yeah, Chair. Really, I did see the pictures. Actually, they did come up when Matthew showed them, but I'm back again now to just a screen. But I was rather unimpressed by this Belvedere Tower. I was expecting something more than that, but what I've seen is not really make any impact at all upon me. I don't know really what its purpose is. It says to be as a sort of guidance tower. And if they're going to use that to find your way, seems a bit I don't know, a bit nothing. Cheers, Chair.
Okay.
Yeah.
Matthew,
was that a question? So
I'm not sure whether you got an answer for that one.
Well, we use it for wayfinding is the term we use, Councillor. A slightly taller element of the building that you'll be able to see from slightly further away to help you find your way to the Chiswick Health Centre. I mean, it's fair to say that this application has been through our urban design officers, that they're satisfied with the design and the look of the scheme. So a slightly subjective issue maybe, and of course you're welcome to your views, but it's got the okay from our design officers anyway.
Okay. Thank you for that, Matthew. Michael Dennis, any questions to Matthew?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I did. I think Councillor Foote raised a very good point about the belfry. I've heard some residents say that they really didn't like it. If we didn't want the belfry tower there, could that be secured by condition, or would it have to be deferred to be looked at again, just out of interest?
So we wouldn't be able to redesign. Essentially, members are here to decide the scheme in front of you at this current point of time. So that's the decision that has to be made. So right. Yeah, I'm afraid it would have to be a decision on the application.
Certainly. I mean, I do see the point about it being a visual finder. I just wonder in the day of Google Maps whether that's necessary. But something to consider for my councillors to consider on that issue, on how we might vote on it. Now the second point is I went to see that the environmental ecological appraisal on page 36 at 7.125 includes a number of things, including installation of bat and bird boxes and green wall climbers. Is this all included as a condition, or is this something we would have to vote on as an extra condition?
So I believe it is included in a condition within the report. Something's worth double checking. So maybe I'll come back to you when we've heard from the speakers. I'll tell you what, Councillor, I'll raise it if it's not a condition, and then I'll suggest that you vote on it if that's okay.
Thank you. Yes, that'd be really helpful. Thank you so much, Matthew.
Okay.
Yes, and I think that was all I was going to ask on that one. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Moving on to Councillor Bishnu Grung. Bishnu, any questions to Matthew?
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick one. Around the health center, I see number of trees around there. So, what are you planning for that tree? Either we're gonna do reserve or anything else? Can you brief us, please? Thank you.
Yeah, so the proposal involves the loss of 8 trees, and in their place 12 new trees will be planted. You might have seen when I showed you the landscaping kind of parked area to the west of the site. That's primarily where they'll focus at the location of the new trees. So that's all been built into the proposal.
Thank you, Chair. That's all.
Okay, thank you, Bishnu. Councillor Guy Lambert. Guy?
Yes, back to the tower again. Does it have any purpose beyond a sort of design feature?
To my knowledge, it doesn't. The floor plans don't show it containing anything. Perhaps a question for the applicant, if that's okay, Councillor, when they come on, if they've got any more background information as to why it's there.
Okay. Hina, so at this point, is Hina with us? Because obviously if she's managed to get on, then there is a possibility for her to be able to participate in the vote. If she hasn't, then I think it's going to be difficult, because some of Matthew's report is what's in the body of the report. But after that, then, the questions to the applicants and the objectors, it may be difficult for her to join. Peter Hendy, Has Councillor Hina Mir been able to join us?
I don't know because I don't do you know what her last few digits on her extension on her mobile is?
I actually don't. So
we only see numbers.
No, I know. I see the same numbers, but unfortunately, I can't differentiate. So look. Okay. Hina, can you hear us?
Chaz. I don't believe that Councillor Mir is in the meeting at the moment.
Okay, we will press on, and she will have to sit this one out, right? So I think because it's causing us a lot of difficulty to try to accommodate her. Okay, so I have no questions for you, Matthew. Right, thank you for that. Now let me move on to the objectors. We have two objectors, David Cox and Connor Doyle. Gentlemen, are you on the line?
Afternoon, Chair. We're actually speaking in support.
Yeah. You're speaking in support.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me move on to Stephen Curtis and Ben Cooper. Then I would take it are speaking against. Hello, Stephen Curtis and Ben Cooper. Are you on? Hello. Stephen Curtis and Ben Cooper, come in, please.
Need to unmute themselves. Star 6 to unmute yourself, Mr. Curtis or Mr. Cooper.
I think they were trying to unmute and I've just seen their number disappear in front of my eyes, so I don't know whether they've accidentally left the meeting.
Oh dear. We're not doing well tonight, are we? Okay, well, let's hope things improve.
Whilst we're waiting, can I give you Hina Mir's, the last three digits on her phone is 887.
887, let's look out for 887.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's not in the meeting. Okay, so let's not worry now about Councillor Hina Mir because we're going to ask her to sit this one out. Okay, so if she can join on item number 5, 6, 7, and 8. But on this item, I think we spent too much time trying to accommodate her. Okay, I'm looking for Stephen Curtis and Ben Cooper. Gentlemen, can you hear me? If you can, it's
hello,
star 6.
hello. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sorry. And who are you?
I'm Stephen Curtis.
Okay.
Ben Cooper is not able to join me.
Well, Steve and I am actually on the call as well.
Ah, excellent.
Let's not worry now about Councillor Hina Mir because we're going to ask her to. Okay, so we got some background issues, so right? If she can join on item number 5, 6, 7, 8.
Chair.
Yes.
Maybe somebody who's on the phone is watching it on a computer or a tablet because there's a bit of a delay usually with those. Yeah. So if you could just turn the volume down on that because we're then picking up the delay through our mics.
Yes, I've just done that.
Thank you.
Okay. Right. So, Mr. Curtis, as you're the only one, you have 5 minutes to speak and put your case forward. 30 seconds before the end, Peter Kelly will intervene and tell you have 30 seconds left, and then you need to start summing up. So right. Let me know when you're ready, and then we can begin your 5 minutes and the clock ticking.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'm speaking on behalf of a number of residents. The time limit means that I'm also speaking on behalf of Ben Cooper. The committee has had emails from me recently.
Okay, so you started or you're going to start?
I'm starting.
Okay, right. Let's start the clock. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'm speaking on behalf of a number of residents. The committee has emails from me setting out my concerns. And I must say that all except Councillor Dennis they've declined my invitations to visit the site with me, which I think is rather disappointing. I have some serious questions. Mr. Chairman, why is this item still on the agenda, despite Hounslow being open to a legal challenge? Mr. Chairman, why is the committee being put in the position from which it could act unlawfully and unfairly? Mr. Chairman, why is the committee being materially misled about the likely impact of the proposed development on the sunlight and daylight being enjoyed by the houses to the north of the proposed buildings? Mr. Chairman, why hasn't the planning department had the daylight and sunlight report of March 2020 amended so that it fully analyzes all the neighboring properties and eliminates errors and omissions? I have pointed these things out in May 2020 and again this March, in this March when the new application was submitted. Mr. Chairman, why hasn't the case officer, Mr. Cassidy, responded to my many requests over the last 9 months? The answers to these questions must be because Hounslow wishes to push this application through at all costs, at serious cost to the residents to the north of the site, and at a cost to all residents of Chiswick who appreciate the character of the area. Hounslow appears to be judge and jury. It is a client for the flats, and it controls the planning process. Mr. Chairman, as well as selectively ignoring the BRE guidelines for daylight and sunlight, the Council's own policies, SP4 and CC2, have been trashed with regard to the existing residents. The policies contain clear guidelines to protect the residents' amenity, character of back garden spaces, minimizing overbearingness and overshadowing, and ensuring sunlight and daylight in sufficient quantities. Mr. Chairman, I would like to refer to Figure 4, which shows the surrounding area very well on a sunny day. Do we have Figure 4, please? I have no sound. Can you hear me?
Mr. Curtis, I believe it's showing on the screens now, Figure 4.
Can you hear me, Mr. President? Mr. Chairman?
I can hear you, Mr. Curtis.
Right. I can't see Figure 4. Do I get extra time if the figures aren't there?
We couldn't make accommodations, but as Matthew Rees pointed out, we can see it. I'm just a bit concerned that you cannot see it.
Well, I don't mind if I can't see it. I can see. Fine, you can see it, can you?
Yeah, we can see it.
Right. This shows a view of the site from the south, showing. I have marked our house. That's where our house is. And it shows the area probably in April, May, judging by the leaves on the trees. And it shows maybe at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And the whole place is in good sunlight. This is the character of the area. 3 stories, 2-story houses, some Victorian, and some the estate, the red brick estate that was built by Hounslow Council in the 70s. The new proposal will completely change this area. And I draw your attention to Figure 1, which is one of the most important diagrams. Can the committee see Figure 1?
Yes, Mr. Curtis, we're now seeing Figure 1 with your house being represented.
Yeah, this figure is a different view. It's a view sort of from the north, from the northwest. And it shows the surrounding housing. All those houses that are marked in yellow, a sort of yellow, have had full analysis of all the windows. All the windows have been analyzed of these houses. The houses, my house, the whole of Fisher's Lane, the whole of Armagh Close, have been completely left out of this analysis. This is a very, very serious omission. It is pointed out in March last year, and it is still left out of the analysis.
30 seconds left.
Good heavens. What about the missing drawing? Okay. There have been 33 negative responses out of a total of 39 responses from the public. This is not a very popular project. The bird habitat along the north side of the health centre is going to be completely destroyed, despite the ecological report recommending this habitat is retained and enhanced. The Belvedere is completely disliked by everybody. It makes a high building, a tall building, even taller. Quite unnecessary. And the recommendations relating to bird boxes.
Mr. Curtis, can you stop there? Patrick, we're going to give Mr. Curtis 30 seconds more, right, to finish up and sum up, right? So continue, Mr. Curtis.
Well, the destruction of the roosting habitat, 50-year-old habitat, is recommended that it is retained by the ecological report. Obviously, it can't be with your proposal. There is no enhanced habitat planned. Parking, there are concerns about the loss of parking with ambulance drop-offs and the entrance to the car park. And as I say, the Belvedere is disliked. But the key thing is, why is this on the agenda despite being open to legal challenge? Mr. Chairman, I concluded.
Thank you, Mr. Curtis. I'm sure you have those questions and they will be answered tonight. So questions now from my colleagues to Mr. Curtis, starting with Councillor Richard Foote. Richard, questions?
No, I can't think that I have. Much of it was issues that I'm just unable to answer a question on.
Okay, that's fine. We can ask Matthew or Patrick to pick those up.
Yeah.
We're getting a lot of resonance back. Can people turn their microphones off? Yeah. Mr. Curtis, if you can mute yourself by pressing *6.
Right. Okay.
Okay, and when you need to answer, we'll ask you to press *6 again. Okay, right. So, Michael Dennis, questions to Mr. Curtis on his presentation.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, Mr. Curtis, thank you for your presentation on your objections. You mentioned that there was no sunlight report on Precious Lane and Armick Clove. Did officers approach you in your house about any test on the sunlight?
Unmuted. Mr. Chairman, I've been not contacted.
Yeah.
No one has contacted me about any of the matters I've raised.
Okay.
And that dates from May 2020.
Mm-hmm. I see. And have there been any tests on your property and windows at all for sunlight?
There are no checks reported in the daylight sunlight report. Yes. Assumptions were made that none of my rooms were habitable on the south flank of my building. I pointed out these errors last May. There's still no recognition of this.
Yes.
This is why the council is open to serious legal challenge here.
Mr. Curtis, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Curtis. Now, Councillor Vishnu Grung, any questions to Mr. Curtis?
Thank you, Chair. Well, Mr. Curtis has presented a very, very good picture and good important point of the objection. So it is very clear. So I have got any question for Mr. Curtis. Thank you.
Okay, that's fine. Councillor Guy Lambert, any questions to Mr. Curtis?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, it's Councillor Guy Lambert. I do have a question, which is about in the what you've been saying earlier, and in the letter that you wrote to us a little while ago. You query the overshadowing calculations or whatever that the council has done. I'm just wondering, do you have have you sort of engaged, have you done any kind of professional investigation of this, or is this just just your opinion that that you'll be overshadowed? I'm just interested because sometimes we get objectors who provide, you know, alternative professional views on this. I think this isn't. I should be questioning the proposer as well on this matter, but I'd just like to understand whether this is just a member of the public making an assessment, or whether there are any professionals involved in this. Thank you.
Councillor Lambert, interesting question. I don't think I'm really obliged to disclose this, but I understand your concern, and because of you may give greater weight to what I'm saying, I have been employing advisors, planning advisors, daylight advisors on this matter. So this is not a casual, this is not a civilian observation. Is that helpful?
Thank you, very clear, thanks. Okay, I have no questions for Mr. Curtis. So Mr. Curtis, thank you very much for your presentation, and you can mute yourself and be there for the duration of this meeting if you so wish. Let me now move on to... Thank you, Mr.
I will...
Thank you, Mr. Curtis. Thank you. Let me move on now to the applicants David Cox and Connor Doyle. So gentlemen, we met earlier. I know you're there. If you could reappear, that would be good.
Chairman, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. Right. Okay. So David Cox and Connor Doyle. So Connor, I can see you. Is David around, or is he just one of you?
I'm on the call. It's David Cox speaking.
Okay, right. Okay, that's fine. So gentlemen, you have 5 minutes to do your presentation. Let me know when you're ready and we'll start the clock ticking.
Okay, I'm ready. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, off you go.
Thank you. So first of all, thank you for providing me with the opportunity to inform you about our plans for the proposed and much needed redevelopment of Chiswick Health Centre. Firstly, to say that the new health centre has been part of the NHS strategy in North West London and in Hounslow in particular for at least the last 10 years and possibly longer than that. The estate in Chiswick Primary Care Network does not meet the current standards, meaning that despite the very best efforts of staff, and the patients are not receiving the expected level of care that they should. The Chiswick Primary Care Network consists of 8 GP practices operating from 6 facilities. Chiswick Health Centre is the largest at just over 1,500 square metres, and the building currently houses 3 of those 8 GP practices. The current building is overcrowded, over capacity, and has reached the end of its useful life. Hounslow is a rapidly growing London borough with 11% growth predicted between 2020 and 2035. The Chiswick locality has a higher population aged 65 and over, and inevitably with the ageing population, this will place greater demands on primary and community services in relation to diseases such as cardiovascular and diabetes and other long-term conditions. The 3 GP practices in the existing building have seen the list size growth above the Chiswick average, and the new building responds to that local need, providing the necessary increase in space to meet the population growth that has occurred and which will continue to occur over the next 15 to 20 years. And then in addition to that, the additional demands for health services. The new building will provide modern, fit-for-purpose accommodation in which to offer enhanced care for patients now and in the future. The new facility will also offer NHS staff excellent accommodation and facilities in which to treat patients, to work with colleagues collaboratively, to train staff and improve services. This offers benefits to the patients as identified, but will also attract and retain high quality staff. The new facility will enable the delivery of primary care at scale. It will reduce unwarranted variation and improve patient outcomes. It will decrease referrals and reduce hospital outpatient appointments, and therefore offers a more economic use of acute resources. The provision of multidisciplinary teams based in the building can offer improved models of care, and we can also improve the use of digital resources for virtual appointments and consultations. A consistent approach across the primary care network will also offer 7-day extended access to primary care. We will be able to deliver better care planning and case management and improve the coordination of care for the patients of Chiswick. That's all I had to say, but I know that Connor's going to follow up.
Thanks, David, and good evening, members. I'm Connor Doyle from NHS Property Services, the joint applicants with NHS Hounslow CCG. I think much of the benefits of the scheme have already been outlined by David a short while ago and within the officer's report before you, and I trust you've all had a chance to review the briefing note issued last week. NHSPS has been working hand in hand with the CCG and all service providers, responding directly to the clinical brief to prepare a high quality proposal designed by architects Allies and Morrison. The application has been subject to extensive pre-application, public and patient engagement prior to its submission last year. Looking more closely at the development, which will comprise the demolition of the existing building with all clinical services temporarily relocated to a decant location on Stamford Brook Avenue before they move back to the new Chiswick Health Centre after approximately a 3-year stay. This new health centre will provide an increase of approximately 1,000 square metres in healthcare floor space, providing additional capacity for existing clinical services, as well as accommodating additional out-of-hospital services. Incorporates amenity space, including a ground floor garden for all health users and a staff terrace at 4th storey level, and will achieve a BREEAM excellent rating. Of equal importance is the residential component, which will deliver 55 residential units, all of which will be social rented affordable housing with preference to NHS key workers. It will provide a high quality architectural design which enhances the site and preserves the character and appearance of the area and meets the relevant residential standards with minimal impact on neighbouring residents, as demonstrated through the submission of several technical reports, including a BRE daylight sunlight survey. There are of course other benefits which include public rail improvements, including land to the west, improvements to the pedestrian access such as zebra crossings on Dolman Road and Fishers Lane Junction, and reduces traffic through a car-free residential scheme, safe for 3 residential or disabled spaces. Thanks for your time, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, David and Connor. Let me move on to my colleagues who will have questions for you. Councillor Richard Foote, questions to David or Connor?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, only one question, and it's really going back to the previous speaker, but it's to ask whether at any time have they been contacted with this information, or have they actually done any studies into the daylighting questions that have been raised?
Yeah, happy to answer that. So we did submit a full BRE daylight sunlight survey, and we've actually got the consultant on the line today who can answer any technical questions around that from Point 2 surveyors.
Yeah, I'm happy to pick that up if that's all right. So hi, my name is Matthew Hensey. I'm from Point 2 Surveyors, the authors of the Daylight and Sunlight report dated March 2020. Within that initial report, we went around the site as we usually would do, identifying where sort of existing residential receptors are located. As part of our usual due diligence on every site, we obviously try to source floor plans to understand how the buildings are made up, because naturally when we follow BRE guidance, it is habitable rooms that we need to consider for daylight and sunlight assessment, i.e. bedrooms, living rooms and kitchens and the like. When we were doing our research initially for 2 Fishers Lane on the corner there, we were unable to source layouts per se for the property, but we did manage to find sort of photographs from Zoopla and whatnot over the years, which sort of informed our initial assessment as to what could be potentially made up in that property. Within our March 2020 report, we used this information to infer that it was likely that the windows on that flank elevation of 2 Fishers Lane were non-habitable in nature. However, once the objection was raised, we were then asked to respond to that point. So, and I think we were identified that one of the rooms on that flank elevation was in fact a study, which will fall into this habitable room category. Similarly, we got asked questions about potential overshadowing to those neighbours. So on the 14th of October 2020, we provided a response to this, which should have been passed on to the case officer, where we undertook the calculations to the flank elevation of Fisher's Lane as requested, and we undertook overshadowing assessments to the gardens of those properties as well. In terms of the daylight and sunlight assessment on the windows on the flank elevation of 2 Fisher's Lane, as was the theme in the original March 2020 report, it is a low-rise existing site. We do have to recognise that where you're increasing massing on a low-rise existing site, sometimes impacts on daylight and sunlight are inevitably going to exceed those default recommendations within the BRE guidelines, i.e. it could be a noticeable change in daylight and sunlight, and that is not something that we have sought to hide. What we have looked at is in terms of considering sort of national planning policy framework and the Mayor's supplementary planning guidance, in which we should look to set appropriate daylight targets for an area, because the default BRE guidance is generally considered on a sort of a suburban locality. So in this regard, we use 2 principal assessments. That's one's, as you might be familiar with, the vertical sky component assessment, or VSC as it's often referred to, and the no skyline assessment, NSL, or daylight distribution DD as it is also sometimes referred to. Within the report, we pitched that a appropriate target for this locality, based on endorsements from the Greater London Authority, which says that a 15% VSC is appropriate within urban areas. We actually uplifted that slightly to say that we think 18% was an appropriate target for that area. So within our response to that objection, we did note that there were noticeable changes in daylight to the flank elevation. However, the retained levels of daylight to those windows did conform with that alternate target, which is considered appropriate for this area. Likewise, we tested the overshadowing. We did this on 2 dates. The default date in accordance with BRE guidance is to use March 21st, which is what we call the spring equinox. And then the second date we use is the 21st of June, which is the summer solstice, to start to really understand how those gardens are used during the summer months, not just that springtime. The results of that assessment did demonstrate that during that sort of spring assessment date, that there will have been some noticeable reductions in overshadowing noticeable reductions in direct sunlight received by those gardens. However, when we turn and look at the June summertime assessment, there is no change as a result of the development. So these were addressed in a response to the local authority. So hopefully, I think these were also picked up in the case officer's report. So hopefully you guys have got that. But if there's any other technical questions, please do feel free to ask me. I'm here and my ears are open.
Okay, Councillor Richard Foote, have you finished on that one? Have you finished on your questioning, or you got further questions?
No, that finished. That was very ample. Okay, I finished.
Okay, all right.
Mr.
So let me
Can
move on. Sorry, go on. Who's that?
Mr. Chairman, this is Stephen Curtis.
Sorry, no, Mr. Curtis, you can't participate. You've had your 5 minutes.
I tell you, I object.
No.
The new evidence being provided to the committee.
Mr. Curtis, I'm going to rule you out of order.
Okay.
You cannot speak. You've been given time. You've used that time. It is now a case for the applicants to make their case and the members to ask questions regarding their application. So let me continue with that. Right. Yeah. So I'm sorry you're not giving the opportunity, but this is the actual set standard for this committee. So we're not just picking on you. This is what we do right the way throughout, because you've been given 5 minutes. In fact, I gave you 5.5 minutes. Right. But
new evidence.
I know, but that new evidence should have been submitted as part of your case when you made that case.
It hasn't. And therefore, this day you cannot submit new evidence.
Okay, I will take that with the officer. So, but can I please ask you to refrain from speaking? Yep. Thank you very much. Okay, sir. Right, Michael Dennis. Questions to David and Connor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I may first make a question to Matt Hensey, I just wanted to just confirm whether a light analysis was conducted on Arnott Close and Fisher's Lane. Has that been done?
Yes, sorry, I'm off mute. Okay, good. As I said, within the original Daylight and Sunlight report, as explained, we do our due diligence. We try to work out what rooms are habitable and therefore material for assessment. Within our initial conclusions of that March 2020 report, we inferred that it was unlikely that those properties served habitable spaces on that flank. We then submitted a sort of a response to the objections, which then included a technical analysis of those properties. So the technical analysis was sent over on the 14th of October 2020, along with commentary.
Okay, thank you very much for that one. Connor, if you don't mind asking, on the question of rubbish collection from the site, including the collection of medical waste, which will be a new one, will that all be taken in the normal rubbish collection periods, or are there going to be special measures for those?
We'd expect that to follow the normal procedure, and all the delivery and servicing will be predominantly from Arnott Close, but there might be some special deliveries that will be dropped off on Fisher's Lane, utilising a short stoppage.
Yeah. Thank you. Second question. Will there be a liaison contact between your organisation and residents during the construction of the medical centre?
Absolutely, yeah. We'll be very keen to set up a contact to make sure that the residents are informed.
And will that be advertised in the normal way? I mean, how would that be advertised?
We've already got a website set up for the project, where we have a contact email address and number for residents to get in contact with any queries. I'd anticipate that to continue throughout the construction phase, and we'll certainly circulate newsletters via a leaflet drop, etc., to make sure everyone's informed of key dates and milestones.
Certainly. That's all the questions from me. Thank you.
Okay, Michael, thank you very much. Let me move on to Councillor Bishnu Gurung. Bishnu, questions to David and Connor?
Chair, thank you very much. Right, it is really concerning about the daylight and sunlight. Already the two councillor has picked up the question. I would also would like to raise on this concern. Is there any way that you could change this view, or you could find the way to speak with the objector and then make them bit more what he's asking for? Is there any chance that you could help them?
I think as a development team, we're absolutely happy to speak to local residents at their leisure, make sure they're informed of the proposals and any impacts on them. We have submitted our Daylight and Sunlight report as part of the application. That was updated again as part of the revised application earlier this year. It has been online for scrutiny from local residents and other members. So I would encourage them to review that. And as I said, we're happy to set up any meeting with them to discuss their concerns direct.
That would be very helpful. Thank you very much. And he also concerned, I mean, I'm seeing that the parking facilities and is going to be effect and the noisy as well. So what do you think on that one?
So the car parking proposed will be enclosed. So there'll be 8 spaces which will be accessed off Arnott Close. That will not generate a significant noise level. Well, we don't anticipate it to. Indeed, there is a condition attached to the officer's report on noise impact assessment, so that will be assessed as part of any future condition discharge.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, Bishnu, thank you. Councillor Guy Lambert.
Thank you, Chair. I've got a few questions. First one is thank you, Councillor Dennis, for pointing me at bins, which is my specialist subject. I see that you're planning to collect them from Arnott Close, but it's not clear to me where they'll be stored when they're not being emptied. So can you clarify that?
There is internal secured refuse collection points, so they'll be within the fabric of the building footprint. So they'll be lockable and unaccessible to members of the public, and they'll be brought out and made ready and available at the appropriate time. And there'll be a delivery and servicing plan submitted as part of a condition discharge, which will detail that.
Where will they be in the building? I'm looking at the sort of plan and I can't see them. But it's a bit of a small picture. There might be something that says refuse store, I don't know, right in the middle there.
Indeed, yes. So there is some back of house functions in that house centre. As you can see next to the car park, there's a refuse connection point. Fortunately, I can't see the plan.
Oh, I can't see it. Yes, it says bins. Yes, sorry, it's very small print, so I was having trouble seeing it. Okay, thank you. Okay, so now I now move on to my standard question, which is you're providing bicycle parking. Traditional bicycle parking is for traditional bikes. Today, especially in a car-free development, there will be cargo bikes and other bikes of a non-normal specification. Have you allowed for those, and if so, how?
There has been, yes. We've got our transport consultant on the line, Jamie Collins from RPS, who's probably best placed to give you a detailed answer on that, Councillor Lambert.
Hi, good evening. Yeah, Jamie Connors from RPS. To answer your question there, Councillor Lambert, we do have a mixture of cycle parking types, and we're following the London Cycle Design Guidance and both the West Trans Cycle Design Guidance as well. So not only have we got some two-tier stack cycle parking space, we also have a number of Sheffield stands within the long stay cycle parking for both residents and the healthcare. For the residents parking, that makes up about 20% of this parking spaces proposed are for larger cycles or cycles that can park alongside a Sheffield stand without having to go into the two-tier rack. So 20% is quite a large provision with regards to that. Okay.
Thank you. And finally, I'm not sure what it says about, I know it's car-free development. Lovely idea. Of course, car-free developments are not car-free. A proportion of the residents will want to have cars. They will want to park them somewhere around and about. I happen to know that Arnott Close, parts of Arnott Close are council owned, and therefore, as far as I know, they're not included in any CPZ. Therefore, they are not controllable. That anybody can park there, and there's nothing anybody can do about it. And inevitably, there will be some cars attracted by this development, and they'll park somewhere on the streets of Chiswick, as near as they can find somewhere and get away with it. So I'm interested in your comments on that. And whether I don't know whether there's any conditions attached to the parking.
There is. So as you quite rightly stated, it will be a car-free development for the residents, and that means that they'll be prohibited from applying for any on-road car parking permits. That will be secured through the legal agreement to the Section 106 agreement, and it means that any future residents cannot park their car in the local area.
But they can park it in unrestricted areas where, and I think Arnott Close is, I could be wrong, but I believe Arnott Close is unrestricted. So that worries me. It says residents only, but you can't enforce it.
Yeah, so as I say, the residents will be prohibited from applying for any car parking permits. I don't believe that land to the north of Arnott Close is covered by that.
Thank you.
Okay, Guy. Thank you very much. I have no questions for you, gentlemen, David and Connor. So thank you very much for your presentation. Let me go back to Matthew. Matthew, you there?
I'm here, thank you, Chair. I believe we resolved the refuse store issue. Please do say if I'm wrong there, but it is shown on the plans. Thank you, Councillor. There is an ecology condition in there, something that Councillor Dennis, just to confirm. So I think we're probably focusing on daylight sunlight. But if we start off with the legal challenge issue, essentially I think what Mr. Curtis is saying is that as members, you have to fully understand what the impact in terms of light and daylight and sunlight is on neighbouring properties, and then it's for you to afford whatever weight you seek as appropriate when balancing material considerations. So we've obviously highlighted what the public benefits of the scheme are. It's now for members to balance that against any perceived issue in terms of loss of light or outlook to neighbours. But Patrick, would you like to come in and just clarify that for the members' benefit? Is that okay?
Patrick.
Yes, thanks, Matthew. Yes, the main issue is that the committee has the information, all the information in relation to the daylight and sunlight reports that were carried out, and so that it's fully informed to make the decision, and that will be as long as the committee has that, then the committee will be making a sound decision.
Okay.
That covers the point Matthew was alluding to.
Okay, Patrick, thank you for that, but stay on the line. Matthew?
Yeah, hello.
Right, okay. There was an interjection by Mr. Curtis regarding that there had been an update of information and we hadn't received the latest information in regards to sunlight and so forth. What do you make of his comments, and whether you have the information that is up to date?
Yeah, so what happened is that there was the initial application was submitted, and Mr. Curtis is right. The first issue that he's raised is that it did not. It was based on the fact that there was not a habitable room within the south elevation of Mr. Curtis's property. Hopefully I've got the plan up on your screens as a bit of a visual guide. You've seen where Mr. Curtis's property is now. It's 2 Fishes Lane. It's to the south of that block on Fishes Close. Oh no, Fishes Lane, excuse me. So they initially submitted it with assuming that wasn't a habitable room, and they also did not include a sunlight analysis of the rear gardens of properties on Arnott Close and Fishes Lane. Now, subsequently, they submitted a revised daylight sunlight assessment that undertook an assessment assuming that a habitable room was in there, the study, and it undertook an analysis of the loss of sunlight to the garden areas of properties on Fishes Lane and Arnott Close. So we have that information. It was submitted to us, and after we received that information, we did go back out to consultation on the application, and it is visible online. It is a published document, so it has been made available to residents. We've had that information, and that was incorporated into the committee report, and we also believe it's sufficient information on which we can base a decision.
Okay, thank you for that. Let me go back to my colleagues, see if there's any other burning issues before we move into the debate. Councillor Richard Foote, is any further questioning or any clarification that you need from Matthew in regards to the presentation and this item?
No, I'm quite happy with certainly the questions that my colleagues have asked.
Okay.
Blanks in mind.
Yeah, that's fine. Councillor Michael Dennis, any further points of clarification or any issues that you want looked at or mopped up by Matthew?
Thank you, Chair. No further issues from me, thanks.
Okay. Councillor Bishop-Grung, any further clarification that is needed from your side?
Yes, Chair. Just one question for the Matthew. I think this is the last presentation from him. I don't know whether he's going to present a bit more in detail, but having seen that, is really concerned about the daylight and sunlight there. What is the distance from the proposed building to the residential area?
Thank you, Councillor. If it's okay, then I'll get the plan back up. So what I need to explain is that Mr. Curtis he's clearly informed. He's using the BRE guidance. That's what we as planners use to make an assessment in terms of impact on light on neighbouring properties. And then, as the applicant went on to say, it concludes whether there's a noticeable loss of light, and the applicants have been quite clear in saying that there will be noticeable loss of light to certain properties. So just to clarify that, we are assuming that Mr. Curtis we've got no reason not to believe Mr. Curtis in saying that there is a study which looks out onto the health centre that would be below the 20, sorry, I'm going to get technical now, excuse me, the 27% vertical sky component, but it is at a level that we believe would be acceptable for an urban location. Similarly, there was a sunlight test undertaken on the garden areas. I should clarify a point. The reason they didn't do sunlight tests initially on internal rooms within properties to the north is you wouldn't normally do that just by virtue of the way that the sun moves through the sky. It wouldn't have an impact, a significant impact on properties that have an east-west outlook when the proposed development is to the south of the site. The light test did establish that at the spring equinox, so the 21st of March, there would be loss of sunlight to the garden areas of properties in Fisher's Lane and Arnott's Close, and I think that the wording, as I say, that the BRE guidance says that it's noticeable. So what they've gone on to demonstrate is that during the summer months, around June time, so the summer equinox, there would not be loss of light. So the case put forward is that there would be some loss of sunlight to gardens, and particularly in 2 Fisher's Lane and 2 Arnott's Close, around spring equinox, not in the summer equinox. And just to add, so what the applicants have done, as you can see from the plan in front of you, is that they have endeavoured to keep the portion of the building closest to the properties on Fisher's Lane stepped down. So it's 3 stories next to 2 Fisher's Lane, and then it steps up to 4 stories, and they've put their external amenity space there, which is going to be at a lower level than the 4th floor. So officers are suggesting that in terms of weighing material considerations, the public benefit outweigh the issues in terms of the noticeable loss of sunlight to the properties to the north of the site, and the applicants have designed out as best they can some of the issues that are arising from it. So members need to be aware that yes, there would be a noticeable loss of sunlight, particularly during the spring equinox, to properties to the north, and then come to a view as to whether or not that outweighs the benefits that would come from the new health centre and the affordable units. And obviously it's a case that they need the new units to provide the health centre, and they believe they need a new health centre. So I hope that is explanatory. Sorry, it got technical. Please do say if you've got any more questions on it.
Okay. Yes, yeah, that's thank you very much for that clearer. But the only thing is that Mr. Curtis has come up with the photo image, which is really concerning. And then you said that they have done the new develop again, or new rearrange the image. So do you have that's exactly the same sort of photo image that's taken from the developer or from the council office, that we can see how badly affect?
If you're looking for the actual light test document, I don't have that in front of me. Nor do I have a way of actually getting it up on my screen, unless if you give me 5 minutes, I could get it. It depends if that's up to you. But what it does show is essentially it plots where light falls onto the garden areas of properties within Arnott Close and Fisher's Lane, and it says that 43% of the garden within Fisher's Lane would receive sunlight during the spring equinox for 2 hours of the day. Existing, and then as proposed, that level would be reduced. I think it was to it might have been even 0%. So it's saying that in the spring equinox, it was showing a light on floor plans showing that there is going to be a noticeable loss of sunlight into the garden areas. Spring equinox, not in the summer equinox, which is when we're saying it's more likely to use the garden area. And again, it does have the calculations for impact of loss of daylight to the window as well. So that's what you would be looking at. Have I had it in front of me?
Okay, let me move on to Councillor Guy Lambert. Guy, any further questions or clarifications for
Yes. Thank you, Chair. Yeah, a couple. One is, how is this, the residential element of this, who's going to own it and how's it going to be managed?
In which case, if it's okay, can I bring in a housing officer to present this section of the item? Is that okay?
Sure, yeah.
Are you there, Garen?
Hi, committee. Councillor Lambert. So the properties will be owned by the council. We will have from what I understand, a long lease on the properties, and they'll be managed through our normal housing management. How we normally manage our properties. In addition, in terms of, I know we mentioned about key workers, so there's going to be a local lettings plan in place. So key workers who are on our housing register they must qualify for our housing register, but they will be given priority to these units. I'm not sure if that answers your question, but if you've got any more, please feel free to ask.
It does. Good answer. Thank you. So the other question, I'm coming back to this parking question. I saw Kieran, his picture came up for a bit and then it disappeared. I don't know whether my belief that Arnott Close is not controlled is correct, and if so, I foresee disaster. And equally, if there are other uncontrolled areas around there, which these people without cars will park their cars in.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor. Yeah, that's correct. So it is not within the CPZ currently, but there's nothing to stop it being incorporated into the CPZ if parking becomes an issue on it, or as it's private land but owned by the council, we could potentially look to put a barrier there, or actually put little bollards for the individual spaces if residents weren't in favour of CPZ for that area. So there are, even though it's unrestricted currently, there are measures we could put in place if parking does become an issue in that location.
We would normally look to the developer to provide some financial support for such activities, and I'd like to see that we do that.
I don't think there's anything in the committee report at the moment. Matt, can you confirm?
I do not believe that's ahead of term at this point, no, so that would have to be added by members.
Well, I would therefore like to propose that it is added, because I think it's inevitable that Arnott Close will be overrun by cars from there.
Okay, can I dissuade you from doing that until we move into the discussion element? Yeah. Okay. All right. Any further questions, Guy? No. 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 Okay. Right. For myself, there's no further questions to Matthew, because I think the outstanding issue with Mr. Curtis has been clarified, that you have the latest and therefore you can make that informed decision. So now we go into our discussion debate element of it. So going to Councillor Richard Foote, any comments, any debate, Richard?
No, not really, Chair. As I say, I found the tower somewhat strange, but it's not significant. No, I have no real comments to make.
Let me move on then to Councillor Michael Dennis. Any comments, any discussion on it?
Thank you, Chair. I mean, I welcome the application in terms of it being a more for-purpose building. I understand the current one is not. It doesn't quite meet the needs for its purpose. So I welcome that. I also welcome the housing issues, because that is important. We need more housing across the borough, particularly in Chiswick. And although the flats, a lot are usually one-person flats, sorry, one bedroom flats, and usually I might kick up a fuss about it not having enough family units. Actually, this does serve a purpose, because it provides accommodation for staff who work at the who might, or key staff who might work at the health centre. So that's important. On balance, I am looking towards approving this, but I do note the frustration of the tower, and how actually that does might lead to some, well, might antagonize. Well, it makes the light issue a little bit more of an issue, because it just provides that extra shading, which I don't think is really necessary. If my other councillors were inclined, I would be tempted to defer just to the application, just to remove the tower. But on balance, I would otherwise support the application.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Let me move on to Bishnu Gurung, Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. I will also welcome the application, which is a very benefit. But the only concern is that the daylight and sunlight things. So if we could see the image from the officer, we could have the more easy to make a decision. Otherwise, is okay. And also the holding on pending about the legal question. If you could clarify that one, that would help for us. Thank you.
Okay, Vishnu, I think let me ask Matthew. All right, Matthew.
Hello. So you're still looking for the plan?
I'm not. I think we flogged the light issue to death. But if it helps Councillor Vishnu Grung understand the impact and make an informed decision, then let him have that image, and then we can move on. So if in the course of this discussion you can bring it up, I'm not asking you to do it immediately, but before we go to the vote. Right, we want to have that, yeah. So let me then move on to Councillor Guy Lambert. Guy, you asked me something in the previous one regarding a condition, so this is your opportunity to discuss and bring it up here if you wish.
Yeah, so I'll make a couple of comments. One is about the tower, which people seem to not like. I mean, I wonder whether when Sign House was built, people have said, we don't understand what that lion's doing on the top of it. It's a design feature, and I'm not an architect. I'm not qualified to say whether it's a wonderful design feature or not. But to be honest, I don't think it provides a lot of. It doesn't look to me like it's going to be a serious massing issue. So no, I would not be going along with deferring it on that basis. Yes, as to the parking, I do think there'll be an impact on parking. There always is from car-free developments. That there is a place right next to it which is not controlled. We should, in my opinion, ask for some financial support to deal with implementing a solution. I don't know whether it's a CPZ, I don't know whether it's barriers into Arnott Close, and indeed any other nearby, basically council estates. It only affects council estates that have this problem potentially.
Matthew, before you come in, can I suggest something? Because I do actually understand exactly what Councillor Lambert is suggesting. What if, as and when it becomes operational, that there is a review 6 months after that, but we tie in a legal agreement with some sort of funding package attached, which would allow, if it is an adverse impact of parking in that area, that is brought into review, and as a result of the review, that we best implement, whether it's a drop-down barrier or something along those lines, which we leave you and the traffic department to sort out, so that you can reduce the impact, rather than going there heavy-handed. It may or may not be a problem, but I'm just looking at it that from Guy's perspective. Obviously he's worried that residents might be adversely affected by lots and lots of traffic passing through.
Yeah, that's fine, because it's not unusual to include a clause, say a £5,000 contribution to review the CPZ. That's quite a common clause that we have in Section 106 obligations. So if that's what you're looking for, then sorry, I'm committing people to paying £5,000, of course, wary of that. But I would hope that doesn't break the back of the scheme, and I'd imagine that's fine to add on as to the. Yeah,
I'm looking more at Councillor Lambert. Does that assist, Guy, to us?
I mean, I'd be interested in Kieran's view on whether £5,000 will pay for more than sort of a couple of hours of his expertise.
Okay, let's bring in Kieran and see how much he wants.
I wish I was worth more than that, but £5,000 should cover a consultation anyway. And if it's just Ernest Close to be lined and signed, if residents are in favour, then yeah, that should be sufficient. And it's probably more than sufficient for bollards and gates if that was the preferred option as well.
Okay, so so Matthew, you've got the consensus about putting a condition or not a condition, but certainly something in terms of reducing the impact of traffic.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay. So I've got up in front of. Hopefully you're seeing my screen now, which I'm sharing, which does show the sunlight test. So on the left-hand side is the existing impact on properties on Arnott Close and Fisher's Lane, and on the right-hand side is the proposed impact. And what it's showing you is that the amount of garden area at the spring solstice, March 21st, spring solstice, amount of garden area that gets 2 hours of sunlight during the day. So on the left-hand side, you can see those percentage figures of what the existing house centre does. 2 Fisher's Lane is shown on the plans on the left-hand side as having 54% of the garden would receive 2 hours of sunlight in a day. That comes down to 0% of sunlight on March the 21st with the proposed scheme. And then I'm going to scroll down slightly just to show you what it shows for the summer equinox, which will hopefully show up in your screen shortly. So hopefully what I'm showing you now is summer equinox, so June the 21st. It's showing as existing 92% of the garden area would get 2 hours of sunlight on the 21st of June as existing, and it's the same as proposed. None of the properties to the north of the site are affected by virtue of the sun being higher in the sky, and that was submitted to us. That was publicly available when we undertaken the second consultation exercise, and that's on which we're basing our decision, recommendation, excuse me, to you tonight.
Okay, Matthew, thank you. So Guy, you're happy with the so-called condition, right, in regards to the traffic issue, right? Any further questions then to Matthew? No. Okay, Matthew, I have no further questions to you. Right, gentlemen, we've had a discussion, we've had a debate. I want somebody to move a recommendation and then somebody to second it, and then we'll move straight on to the vote. So, not all at once.
Chair, Councillor Foot, I'd like to move acceptance.
Okay, approval of the officer's recommendation. That's what you're saying. Okay, Guy, seconding it?
Second it, yeah.
Okay, right. So I have a live proposal and a seconder to this officer's recommendation. So let's move into the vote using the form of words, right? Richard?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, my name is Councillor Richard Foot. I have been present for the whole of the debate and I cast my vote in favour of the resolution.
Thank you, Richard. Councillor Michael Dennis?
Good evening, Chair. Yes, my name is Councillor Michael Dennis. I've been here for the whole of the debate and I also vote in favour of the resolution.
Thank you, Michael. Councillor Bishnu Gurung?
Hi, I'm Councillor Bishnu Gurung. I've been here for, throughout the meeting and throughout the debate as well. So I'm voting favour of the council officer decision. Thank you.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. Councillor Guy Lambert?
Thanks, I'm Councillor Guy Lambert. I've been here throughout the discussion and I'm voting in favour of the proposition.
Thank you, Guy. Councillor Amrit Mann, I've been here for the duration of the meeting, heard all the evidence, and I'm also in favour of the officer's recommendation. Members, thank you very much. That's carried unanimously and is approved. Now, it is 6:43. I want to have a comfort break for 10 minutes and we reconvene at 6:55. Thank you. Turn off your cameras and your microphones, gentlemen.
Yeah, Chair, can I just say that during the period when Matthew was showing his pictures, then I was seeing full pictures. I'm now seeing Bishnu on my screen.
Okay.
So I don't know where the fault's coming from my screen, you know, in terms of pictures, but I've got a feeling it's from the other end, not from my end. But I can live with what we've got.
Hi, Councillor Foot. It's best not to play around with things while during live meeting.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree. Never touch the button when it's live. Okay.
Hello, hello. It is, hold on 1 second.
Right. Everybody back?
Chair, do you want to move suspension of standing orders so you can carry on past 7:30 if you need to?
Yeah, okay. So somebody move suspension of standing orders, please.
Yes, Chair, I would like to. Go, Dennis, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, Michael, go on.
Oh, just say I'd second that or propose it. Happy to do
Okay,
that.
propose it, and I'll take Councillor Bishnu Grunga seconding it. Is that all right, Bishnu?
All right, yeah, thank you.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, so that's done. Right. Okay, so everybody back, yeah? Let's carry on. Now, we've got item 5 and 6. They're more or less the same sort of thing. Let's take them together, and we've got Anissa. Anissa, in your own time, right?
Thank you, Chair.
So when you're ready, off you go.
Yeah, I'll just share my screen. Can everybody see that?
Yeah.
No.
No, who's no? Richard?
It's Richard, yeah. I can see him usually when it's a single picture, so something's happening. Got it. I've got it up.
Okay, very good.
I'm seeing it. Single pictures I get. It's when there's a multiple. I'm seeing all your lovely faces now in the small screen at the bottom.
Okay, Nisa, let's go. All right.
Okay, thank you, Chair. There are 2 applications to be considered on this site, and I'm going to be presenting both agenda items 5 and 6 in one presentation. The application site, which is outlined in red, relates to Heston Sports Ground located to the east of Crane Lodge Road in Cranford. QPR currently occupy part of the site to use as a training and sports centre for their football academy. The surrounding area is mixed in character, with the M4 motorway to the north and industrial land beyond. To the east and south lie industrial estates. To the west and southwest lie pockets of residential properties. Further to the west lies Cranford Community College. The whole site is designated as Metropolitan Greenbelt as shown on the plan. On screen are some photographs of the existing buildings on site. The application is a hybrid application which seeks full planning permission for the demolition of all existing buildings and redevelopment of the site to provide a football training facility, including a first team training building, maintenance building, 4 natural turf pitches, 1 artificial football pitch, and engineering works to playing surfaces, as well as outline planning permission for the indoor hall to the south of the site. The proposal is a phased development, and the phasing plan can be seen on the screen. Phase 1 relates to upgrading the 3 main sports pitches located to the north of the site, including goalkeeper area, rehabilitation area, and training grids. The proposal also includes the installation of an irrigation water storage tank, pump station, and 10-metre high ball retention fencing along the northern boundary with the M4. The proposed main training building would have a footprint of 4,081 square metres set over 2 stories. It would have a maximum height of 10.7 metres, 22 metres in width, and 97.34 metres in length. It would have a striking appearance with large areas of glazing and cladding with vertical louvers breaking up the massing. The northern and southern elevations would be clad in dark blue metal panelling to reflect QPR's branding. On screen are the proposed floor plans and elevations of the training building. The maintenance building would be located to the west of the site and would have a maximum height of 4 metres. Officers consider the main training building, maintenance building, and the football pitches to be appropriate development within the Greenbelt. The proposed main training building would reduce the impact to the openness of the Greenbelt and would deliver a higher quality development than is existing. This part of the development would meet the exceptions test outlined in paragraph 145 little g of the MPPF, which allows for limited infilling or the partial or complete redevelopment of previously developed land, which would not have a greater impact on the openness of Greenbelt than the existing development. Moving on to the indoor hall. The indoor hall would be located to the southwest of the site, sited away from the residential properties along the Redwood Estate and closer to the boundary with the Parkway Trading Estate. Outline permission is sought for the indoor hall, which would contain an artificial football pitch as required by the Football Association standards. It would have a maximum height of 13 metres and would be viewed in the setting of the nearby industrial buildings comparable in scale. Whilst this part of the proposal would be a departure from the development plan, it is considered that very special circumstances exist to justify the proposed indoor hall in respect of its location within the Greenbelt. Officers considered the location of the indoor hall strikes the balance between the need for the indoor hall, protecting residential amenity, and protecting the openness of the Greenbelt and its purposes. The very special circumstances arise from the demonstrated sporting need of the development, future prospects of QPR to obtain Category 1 academy status from the Premier League, suitability of the site, and crucially the benefits to the community as outlined in the submitted Heston Community Benefits Management Plan to be secured in a Section 106 agreement. Overall, officers consider that the very special circumstances for the indoor hall outweigh the harm to the Greenbelt. It is noted that Sport England has objected to the scheme, the reasons of which have been outlined under paragraphs 5.14 to 5.15 of the report. Officers consider that an appropriate community use agreement to be secured via the legal agreement would overcome these concerns. The site is privately owned and the proposal would significantly increase public access to a high-quality sporting facility. A landscape strategy has been submitted, however, the final details of the tree planting and to ensure native species are used would be secured by condition. On that basis, the application is recommended for approval subject to conditions and a legal agreement. Members will also note that the additional information contained in the addendum relating to drawing numbers and additional conditions. I would also like to include a construction logistics plan condition for the application for the 3 pitches to read the same as the hybrid application as stated in condition 18 of the addendum. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Anissa. Right. Members, so questions on item 5 and item 6. We'll take them together, but we'll vote separately on those, yeah? So, Councillor Richard Foote, questions to Anissa on those items.
Yes, Chair. I'm trying to find it on the paper, but I read earlier somewhere that I'll step back a bit. There used to be a cricket pitch right in the middle of all of this, and obviously that disappears. But I did see some reference to some extra work being transferred across to the college across the road from there. And I believe that includes a cricket pitch, amongst other things. Is that true?
Yes. Yep. So QPR have also committed to off-site provision of additional sporting facilities at both Cranford Community College and Swincombe Sports Ground, and a cricket square and refurbishment of a multi-use games area is also proposed, and that would also be secured in the Section 106 agreement.
Right, thank you, Chair. That's fine for me at the moment.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Councillor Michael Dennis, any questions to Anissa on that presentation?
Thank you, Chair. Anissa, I really like your presentation, very clear, and no questions from me, thank you.
Okay. Councillor Bishnu Grung, any questions to Anissa on her presentation?
Yes, Chair, thank you. Anissa, that's the one of the question which is Sport England objected this project, and what is the mitigation to their project?
Yeah, so Sport England has objected to the application on the basis that the existing site is a multi-sport facility, and it's going to be converted into a predominantly football-based provision. So as part of that, they've submitted a Heston Community Benefits Management Plan, as well as, like I've mentioned, the off-site provision of other sporting facilities at Cranford College and Swincombe Sports Ground to overcome those concerns.
Okay, thank you. And other thing is what is the offer for the local community around that area? I think this is the very high level football training pitches, but is that any a local community offer?
Yes, so that's captured in the community use agreement. So we would secure that via the Section 106, and the indoor hall and the artificial pitch have the capacity to provide local schools, sports clubs with facilities to host a range of different sporting activities. Again, the community use agreement would secure community access to these facilities.
Lovely, thank you. That's all. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, all right, thank you. Councillor Guy Lambert, questions to Anissa.
Thank you, Chair. I don't think I didn't sort of understand whether Sport England are still objecting, or because we're expecting some further input from them. Can you clarify?
Sure. So Sport England have retained their objection again on the principal matter of the existing facility being a multi-use sports facility, and their policies differ from our own local plan policy. So they would assess it on a like-for-like basis rather than planning policies or local plan policies, which would assess it on a more a bigger picture, a balancing act.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Right, Nisa, there's no further questions from me, but stay on the line and let me see if we need you to clarify any points as arising out of this. Okay, so folks, you've asked questions of the officer. Now really we're going to debate or comment stage. So Councillor Richard Foote, any comments, any debate regarding these two items?
Not a lot, Chair. My concern was the one of the other sports. I have played cricket on that ground, not very well, but never did clear any boundary fences. Yeah, I was concerned that those facilities, if they were to disappear from that area, and I'm very pleased to see that there is an agreement to build facilities across in the Cranford College grounds there that would be available and open to general public, as well as some of the facilities of the site itself being open to other sports groups within the borough. I think that shows a neighbourly approach from QPR, and I'm not saying that as QPR is not a team I support normally. I usually, as most of you know, I'm a Tottenham supporter, so there is no bias there.
Okay, all right. Let's move on to Councillor Michael Dennis. Any comments on the debate?
Thank you, Chair. I won't comment on the Councillor Foot support of Tottenham Hotspur at all. No, I would just say no. I welcome this application. I don't usually like to see an application built on Greenbelt or Metropolitan Use land, but I am convinced by the report that the proposal fell under the exceptions B and G of the criteria in paragraph 145 of the NPPF, and therefore appropriate for development. And I see that also in light of the fact that it does provide sporting facilities, which is a huge boon for the local communities, and therefore I'm leaning towards supporting these applications.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Councillor Vishnu Gurung. Vishnu?
Okay, thank you, Chair. All right. What I see is, the most important thing is we want to have the place for the community use. This sort of big project coming in our local area is very useful and very important as well. But at the same time, our community, local community, also very important if they do have the access to use this sort of the facilities. So that was my concern, but anyway, the NISA has confirmed that the community use is available. So I'm happy with this application. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Guy Lambert.
I'm Councillor Guy Lambert, and as a ward councillor for the ward where the pride of the borough, the Brentford Football Club, is located, I really should be catatonically opposed to anything that helps their arch rivals, Queen's Park Rangers. Actually, I'm a Liverpool supporter, so it doesn't entirely capture me, but I welcome the investment. I think it will be an exciting thing for us to have a solid second division team with their training ground in the borough. To go with the soon to be Premier League champions Brentford, who also have their training ground in the borough, and So I'm likely to be supporting it, and yeah, like the others, I'm pleased that there seems to be a decent provision for non-professional sport. Thanks.
Okay, Guy, thank you. And for myself, very similar sentiments. I think that's we've all sort of used that site in some time or other. It did need upgrading. I think this is a good long-term investment into this area, and certainly the Football Academy is a welcome gift, and all, as is the off-site provision just across the road at Cranford Community for cricket and other facilities. So I welcome this, and this is as I say a very good investment coming at a very difficult time for the UK, never mind just Hounslow. So okay, we've had a discussion. Any other further comments or anything along those lines? No. Otherwise, what I will do is I'll ask for somebody to make a proposal, and somebody to second it, and then we can go straight to vote and release Anissa.
I'll move acceptance of the report, Chair.
Okay, so Richard Foote and seconder.
I will second the proposed officer proposal.
Okay, Councillor Bishnu got in there before Guy Lambert. Okay, so I have a proposal.
Chair, could I just remind everyone about the addition of the construction logistics plan to the 3 pitches applications? That's also included within the addendum, sort of a verbal addendum by my presentation. So
Okay,
it's captured.
so,
Thank you.
okay, but we don't need to specifically point that out. That's now given as being accepted.
Thank
Right,
you.
because you've mentioned it, we've accepted it. So now when we come to the vote, gentlemen, I will vote on item 5 and item 6 as separate votes for the record taking. Right, so in relation to item 5, Councillor Richard Foote has moved and Bishnu Grung has seconded, with the condition that Anis has just stated. So we're moving officer's recommendation. So going to the vote, Councillor Richard Foote, using the form of words that we've agreed.
Thank you, Chair. I'm Councillor Richard Foote. I've been present for the whole of the debate on item 5, and I vote in favour of the officer's report.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Michael Dennis.
Good evening. My name is Councillor Michael Dennis. I have been here for the whole of the debate, and I vote in favour of the officer's report.
Thank you. Councillor Bishnu Gurung.
Thank you, Chair. I'm Councillor Vishnu Gurung. I'm the member of the Planning Committee and Hanath Park Ward representative. I've been here. I have been present throughout the meeting, and I'm recommending the officer proposal. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Guy Lambert.
Hello, I'm Councillor Guy Lambert. I've been present for the whole debate and I vote in favour of the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. And myself, Councillor Amrit Mann, I've been here for the duration of the discussion, heard all the evidence, and I also move the officer's recommendation and agree with it. Okay, so gentlemen, that's item 5, that's unanimously agreed. Now, similarly, I'm asking a proposer and a seconder for item 6.
I'll propose item 6 as well, Chair.
Okay, Richard Foote and Guy Lambert to second, right? Okay, and bearing in mind what Anissa said in relation to the condition, right? Yep. So, going to the vote, Councillor Richard Foote.
Yes, my name is Councillor Richard Foote. I have been present for the whole of the debate on item 6 on the agenda, and I vote in favour of the officer's report.
Recommendation. Thank you. Okay, Councillor Michael Dennis.
Good evening. Yes, my name's Councillor Michael Dennis, and I have been present for the whole of the debate, and I vote in favour of the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Bishnu Gurung.
Thank you, Chair. I'm Councillor Bishnu Gurung. I'm a member of the Planning Committee, and I'm representative councillor from Hanath Park Ward. I have been present throughout the whole of the meeting, and I'm voting for the officer recommendation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Guy Lambert.
Thank you, Chair. I'm Councillor Guy Lambert. I've been here for the whole meeting, listened to all the evidence, I vote in favour of the officer's recommendation.
Okay, thank you, Guy. Myself, Councillor Amrit Mann, I've been here for the duration of the debate, heard all the evidence, and I also too vote in the officer's recommendation.
Chair, we appear to have lost you.
We've lost the chair.
Well, we got his vote in time, so let's see if he comes back.
I'll just give it a minute or so. Give him a chance to reconnect.
At least he's caught in a decent pose, unlike sometimes I've seen people with their mouths open and scratching their ear and so forth.
Mind you, he might not be aware, he might be gaily talking away to the ether without realising that nobody's there to hear him. Oh, here's something coming.
Do we know any planning songs? We could have a planning sing song whilst we wait for the chair.
Not any that's repeatable here, no.
I'm sure the professionals have them, but they probably insult councillors, so but steer clear of that.
And there's Starship, We Built This City is a good one.
Yeah.
Excellent suggestion. Backstreet Boys. Sorry.
Wendy, are we able to ring Councillor Mann to see whether he's...
Yeah, I've just asked Chaz to see if she could try and get hold of him.
It might be best not to, because he may be trying to get into the meeting with his phone if his laptop doesn't work.
Oh, he has done that before, hasn't he?
I think he needs a new provider.
Hi everyone, it's Chaz here. I just spoke to Councillor Mann and he thought it was just Teams he'd have to reboot, but it's actually the whole system. So he's just doing that, but it's a bit slow coming back up. So what he said was maybe if everyone can just turn their cameras off and mute and take 10 minutes, so we'll resume at 7:30.
Oh, thanks ever so much, Chaz.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, everyone.
Thank you.
Right. Yeah, I've seen no pictures all evening. Now I see Guy on a big screen in front of me.
I said you're a lucky man, but it's probably better now.
Hello, can anybody hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you and see you, Em. All right.
Okay, brilliant. Okay. Well, look, what's called? We got 7 minutes before we, get started, so might as well chill out. Okay.
I think everybody's here, actually.
Is it?
I think everyone is. Yeah.
I think Chaz announced that we were going to start back at past.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying. I don't think anybody actually left because.
Okay.
I don't
Yeah,
think.
Chair, if everyone's here, then by all means go ahead, but we just need to check that everyone is still back here.
Yeah.
Okay, so I can see Guy, I can see Bishnu, I can hear Richard. So missing Michael.
Yeah.
Oh, well. Wasn't he there?
Michael, can you hear me? No, I think he's probably gone for.
He's here.
Ah, okay. You're back. Okay. So what about the officers? Yeah, the officers back.
Sam. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Patrick. Yeah, Sam. Very good. Okay, so we could just kick off then, can't we? Really? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, we're live. So my apologies to people watching at home. My system decided to kick me off. So if Richard Branson is watching, please get Virgin Media to pull their socks up. Okay, so we were at the end of item 6, which had a unanimous vote and was approved. So now we're moving on to item 7, and item 7 is going to be presented by Sam. So Sam, whenever you're ready, let's get going on this.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just going to bring up the presentation now. If you just bear with me 2 seconds, please. Can someone just confirm if that's now showing, please?
I can see it. Anybody not seeing the Rosemount Hotel, right? Slides by Sam.
I'll take silence as being a good answer, so let's crack on.
Yeah, I think everybody's seeing it. If they weren't seeing it, they would let us know. Okay, off you go.
No bother at all. Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you, members. Good evening. The application before you concerns the Rosemount Hotel, which is also formerly known as Marion House at 6163 Staines Road in Hounslow. The site is on the corner of Steve Beaker Way and Staines Road, just in the town centre. You can see it's just to the southwest of Hounslow House, which is just in the top right corner of that image you can see there. This is the existing building. It's a 7-storey 1970s building built of brick, and it currently is used as a hotel. And this is a view from Bath Road looking down Steve Beaker Way towards Staines Road, and you can see the back of the hotel site and the existing garage there. And this is just a further image from in the middle of Steve Beaker Way, and you've got the Trinity Square, which used to be an office building, but that's now been converted to a block of flats under permitted development. And you can see the site, which is that one on the right immediately there. What the application proposes is demolition of the existing hotel and storage facility at the back of the building and the construction of a Part 5, Part 9-storey building to provide a hostel with 107 bedrooms for use by young people, with ancillary amenities including roof terraces, a ground floor commercial unit, plant servicing and other associated works. This is just showing the layout of the site. The hostel building will occupy a large, thin, rectangular footprint on the site, with to the back there'll be parking spaces, cycle store and refuse storage, as well as space for refuse lorries and other servicing vehicles to enter and service the building, as well as the block of flats to the rear, which is known as Blenheim House. This is just showing a ground floor plan where you can see the entrance to the hostel, as well as some of the plant rooms and the commercial cafe space on the ground floor fronting onto Staines Road. And this is just an indicative layout of the upper floors, as being the first floor, which contains some accessible bedrooms and kitchens. This is the accommodation level. Floor 3, which has a terrace as well as the accommodation. Floor 5 of a terraces and accommodation, and the top floor, which is a communal space and communal terrace for the residents, as well as the solar PV panels and other plant. So this is an internal shot of what one of the bedrooms would look like. So there'd be 107 of these, of which 8 would be accessible, and they're slightly larger than the standard rooms that are proposed. And this is just showing that there would be single occupancy. Residents would have an ensuite bathroom containing a toilet, sink and a shower, as well as like desk space, wardrobe space and other storage as well within each individual room. This is one of the shared kitchens that would be present on each floor. There would be enough shared kitchens on every floor to ensure that all residents on that floor would have space to eat and dine together, as well as keep their food and other paraphernalia that they would need in the kitchen within those areas. That's just another view of the dining area within the kitchen. And this is one of the terraces. This is the one above the entrance hall on the 3rd floor. This is another showing the laundry area. Obviously, each individual room wouldn't have its own washing machine, so there is a communal laundry provided on the 5th floor, which has a nice terrace area outside. While you're waiting for your socks to dry, you can go and have a sun as well. And this is the top floor showing the communal lounge and the communal terrace as well, which is at the very top of the building. And that's just a view from Staines Road. So in terms of the actual planning considerations, committee, some of you may have been on the committee at the time, but back in 2018, 2019, there was a resolution to grant for the demolition of the existing hotel and the erection of a 9-storey building to provide flats. Now that was granted at planning committee, but the section 106 agreement was never concluded, so planning permission was never issued, and that application was subsequently withdrawn. So there is currently no live consent, but planning committee previously accepted the loss of the hotel, and again the planning policy supports the loss of the hotel. There's no need to keep that in this location, and our policies seek to direct hostel accommodation into the borough's town centres, obviously this being a town centre site, so an ideal location for this source of use. The accommodation is designed to be affordable accommodation for young people. The applicant is LHA London, who are a charity, and they specialise in providing accommodation for people between 18 and 30 years old in work or education. And the rents are pegged to London living rent or the wages that are earned by the people who live there. The scheme would also have a restriction on the occupancy, which would prioritise certain groups within that age range, particularly those who are working in Hounslow in health, education or social care, etc. And those are set out within the main body of the report, and they would be secured within the Section 106 agreement. But it is accepted and been demonstrated that there is particular need for affordable accommodation for young people in the borough, and this is considered to be an ideal location, bringing new people into Hounslow town centre, particularly younger people, where this sort of development would be directed to. Considering that the rest of the development is considered to be a good design overall, which is strongly supported by our urban design officers who've worked hard with the applicant to develop the scheme. In terms of sustainability credentials, the development would secure a 67% carbon reduction based on the building regulations, which is compliant with what we expect from the policy, and there'll be carbon offset contribution to make up the shortfall from that. In terms of the neighbouring residents, as I touched on, there's properties to the north in Blenheim House, there's also people to the west in Upton Road, and you've got residents to the east in Trinity Square. There's been a full daylight and sunlight assessment, and whilst there would be some harm to residents in Trinity Square, part of this is caused by the design of Trinity Square in itself, particularly as you can see those overhanging canopies which partly shadow the tops of the windows, bearing in mind that this was an office building which has been converted to residential, so obviously wasn't really designed with residents in, residential design in mind when it was first built. So overall, and considering that previous planning permission has been granted a committee for residential on this site, it is considered that the harm would be moderate, and this would be outweighed by the benefits of the scheme, particularly delivering new affordable accommodation for young people and the improved sustainability credentials against the existing building. Overall, subject to conditions and planning obligations, all other relevant matters would be deemed acceptable, and therefore it's recommended that planning permission be granted subject to planning obligations and conditions as set out in the main report and also the addendum report published earlier this afternoon. Thank you very much, Chair.
Sorry, thank you, Sam. Okay, gentlemen, right, let's questions to Sam, starting with Councillor Richard Foote. Richard?
Yeah, I'm not sure if Sam can actually answer it, but I think that it ought to be pointed out that with that age group and that group of persons that are seen to be going to be residents, i.e. apprentices, etc., that would mean that a number of those persons would not be eligible for the London living wage. And I wonder if there is, within the terms of this, I don't know whether it falls under planning, in fact, but whether in the terms of this, it's in the paper, there would be means to adjust the rent appropriately for those that fall into that category.
Yeah, so as you can see, obviously in one of the priority criteria is about training or apprenticeship scheme, and the charity itself is specialised in this sort of accommodation, so I'm sure it's been considered. But what also happens is that the wage can be pegged to the salary expectations of the people who are living there. So obviously if it wasn't captured by the London living wage, as you quite rightly point out, many apprentices are not eligible for that, and the accommodation rate can obviously be pegged to their salary. So that's set out in the report as well. So that would cover aspects such as people who are on apprenticeships, but also people who work in some occupations which are paid a bit more than the London living wage, such as certain social workers at the start of their career. So it does cater for a variety of needs in terms of the discount that would apply, but the principal one being that it would be pegged to the London living wage.
All right, thank you, Sam.
Okay, moving on to Councillor Michael Dennis. Any questions to Sam?
Sam, thank you very much for the presentation. I know the area well. I used to volunteer for homeless shelter very near as C5 Way. I just had a quick question about the hostel. Is there an age restriction in being able to use it? Or not?
So The charity aims to provide accommodation specifically for people between the ages of 18 and 30, and
Yes.
what their assessments that they've submitted to us to demonstrate there's a need for accommodation is that is particularly acute for people who are aged between 18 and 25.
Yes.
So what we've negotiated with the applicant is that it follows a priority banding. So priority 1 would be people who are 18 to 25 where there is that most need, but if the rooms are not taken up by all those people, then there'd be further cascade down to other groups, and then eventually onto other people who are homeless or in need of accommodation. And that follows approach that LHA have used with other boroughs such as the City of Westminster and RBKC and other schemes. So this is what they've done elsewhere in London, and we're satisfied with that approach would meet the need that we need to achieve here in Hounslow.
Yeah. Thanks, Sam. That's really clear. No further questions from me.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Let me move on to Councillor Bishnu Gurung. Any questions to Sam on his presentation?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I do have a few questions for Sam. First thing I would like to ask Sam, that's the emergency plan, because building is quite high. Whether or not you have placed the emergency plan, can you clarify that one? And also you have mentioned that carbon reduction is something 78%. Wouldn't we can improve or go for the 0%, if that could. Other thing is that when the work is processed, of course, it's gonna be very noisy and effect around the roads, especially the Stand Road and the other side, which the bus is coming into on that area, is gonna be effect. So what is the plan on that one? I think that's all.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. I'll apologise if I get them in the wrong order, but I'll try and answer them as you ask them. So in terms of the emergency plan, so obviously you're quite right to raise that. So the new London plan does require that fire safety is considered from the first part in a planning application. So in terms of the assessment that we would do at planning is we would just make sure that we would alert people to the requirements that are contained within the building regulations. And obviously in terms of this building, there are 2 emergency stair cores. They can also be used for non-emergency use, but there'll be 2 emergency stair cores within the building. And also the accessible rooms are located on the lower floors of the building as well, rather than the upper floors. So they benefit from access to both lift and stair cores as well, in the event of an emergency or such as or just generally like in a lift failure. But ultimately the applicant has recruited a fire consultant at this point, so they have considered fire safety in the design of the building, but ultimately that would be picked up in the building regulations approval, which comes later, and that deals with all of the fire matters. But London Fire Brigade haven't raised any particular objections, such as like access for any fire tenders or other equipment that they might send to the building in the event. And I think we can quite clearly deduce, given the roads that it's next to, that there would be sufficient access for fire vehicles both at the rear and also the side and front of the building. So I'm satisfied that all of that would meet what we're required to consider at the planning stage. The second question you asked, which was about the sustainability credentials. So ultimately there has to be a trade-off at some point, because we've got to work within the parameters of what the building is going to be used for and how it's going to be used. So obviously we could have opted for providing all of the roof space for solar PV panels, which would have ultimately uplifted the value. But the problem with that is that we wouldn't have any roof terraces for any of the residents. So there's always going to be a balance there to achieve. 67% is a really good, obviously some schemes do come through as 0 carbon, and that is ultimately the aim, that what we always aim for in development, but there will always be a trade-off on certain schemes. And I think this is a very constrained site. It's very narrow, it's very long. So they're maximising the roof space, both to the benefit of the residents and also to maximise solar PV provision in the use of air source heat pumps to reduce those carbon emissions on the site. We will secure a carbon offset payment, which would bring that in line to the 100% reduction, and we can use that as a council to offset the carbon in some of our own developments, etc., that come forward. So overall, it would comply with the planning policy requirements for carbon reduction and sustainability in this regard. And the last question about the construction management, I don't want to tread on Kieran's toes, so if he wants to come in and correct me on anything I say, but they have submitted a draft construction management plan, which Kieran will have reviewed, and he hasn't raised any particular concerns at this point. And what we do is once the final construction parameters have been agreed, such as the applicant has commissioned the builders and what have you, we get a final construction management plan submitted, and that covers everything about how they're going to do the construction, how they're going to manage the deliveries and everything like that. And it'll have to take account, as you're quite right, because there's a bus stand on the opposite side of Steve Beaker Way. So they'll have to take that into account, and we'll consult TfL on that to make sure they're happy with those arrangements. But the condition would make sure that that's fine, and Kieran and I and TfL would have the final sign off on that.
Thank you, Sam. That's loud and clear. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Vishnu. Let's move on to Councillor Guy Lambert. Questions to Sam, Guy?
I congratulate you on the speed of delivery of your thing, which leaves me running to try and keep up with what you're saying. I've got some questions, stroke concerns about bins. You know me. I mean, the centre of Hounslow is notorious by having hundreds of street bins, which attract fly tipping and all sorts of horrors. And I see that we're proposing an external bin store to serve this and something else. And that really worries me. I just think that will be an external and eternal fly tipping zone. So reassure me.
Okay, so in terms of the bin storage, so they've got to provide sufficient storage also for Blenheim House, which is to the rear, because when that was constructed, I assume they must have rights of access, which allow them to store their bins in that area. So that's another block of flats to the rear. So the proposal is to consolidate both of those arrangements, because at the moment they're a bit of a mess there. What we'll do is we will have a condition which will secure all of the final arrangements for that, because I suspect with the hostel, because it doesn't necessarily fall under like a residential criteria, I'm not sure whether they would be eligible for the council's waste collection service and whether they'd have to organise their own. So that will mean that the final details would have to be agreed with the contractor who's contracted to collect the waste from that site, which we obviously don't have at this point, because that would be the responsibility of the applicant and the contractor to agree at that time. I'm satisfied that the delivery and servicing, and I'm just going to double check, there is normally a separate waste condition within the plan. Yes, so that's in the construction. What I will do actually is, I don't think this has perhaps been made very clear, but I will add a specific condition which will deal with both the arrangements for and the management of the waste and recycling, both for the hostel and the commercial unit within the new building, and also for the properties that would be in that area too. And that way we can have the final say, and we'll consult the council's waste and recycling team, Cindy Gardner and her colleagues, to make sure that they're happy with the final arrangements. And we'll do that so they can't occupy the building until all of those arrangements have been agreed. Would that satisfy your concerns, Councillor Lambert?
Yeah.
Sorry, Sam, if I can just interject. So that condition is going to be done from an officer perspective in tonight's meeting as a condition, or does a member need to move that condition so that it is attached before we actually go to the vote?
Someone else might correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it would need to be moved. So I'm recommending that the matter that Councillor Lambert has raised can be dealt with by a condition.
That's fine.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
So I just need to understand it. So, Guy, when you come to the actual voting time, you want to move that condition. Okay. To the debate and everything. Okay. So, right. Any further questions, Guy, from yourself to Sam?
No.
No. Okay, Sam. No further questions from me. Right. So let me move my colleagues on to the debate, or the to the debate side of things. And so let me ask Councillor Richard Foote if he's got any comments or any debate. Right, Richard.
Yes, Chair. I've got a comment and a question that really covers. It comes up in this one, but it's come up in every item, I think, this evening and most evenings. But the item on zero carbon, the council's carbon offset fund, is there anywhere we can find? I mean, we can see that money is secured to go into this fund by an S106 agreement, but I mean, I can't keep count of all of that in my head. of how much is going in, but is there anywhere we can actually see the balance of what's going into this fund and what's coming out of it and what it's being used for? Because it's, you know, I'm concerned that we're accepting levels of carbon or zero carbon homes, which is nowhere near zero carbon, which is, you know, maybe 25% off target. And if I'm doing that and they're telling me, oh, well, we got this, this money going into the fund to cover it, I want to see what's happening to it and how it is affecting the overall picture of zero carbon offset. So I don't know, is there anybody out there that can actually tell me where that's likely to be? And if not, whether or not we can have a report of some future planning committee. Anyway, I know it's a bit broader brass, but I think we're going to find out when.
I think he's better to advise rather than me on that, if that's all right, Matt. Could you?
The short answer, Councillor, is yes, absolutely fine. We can put together a report for you to circulate to yourself and any of the members who are interested privately. You know, I do this planning update report as well, which is coming back next planning committee. I can include some items on that as well. It's absolutely fine. It's a perfectly reasonable request. So maybe initially we'll send around an email to you outlining the money collected and schemes in progress, and then yeah, we can talk about having it as a rolling thing in future planning committees if you would like to.
So the question I think Richard was asking was, when we're collecting the carbon contribution,
yeah,
is it at the sufficient level, right, for us? I mean, is it, shall we say, market rate? Yeah, or is it, are we charging less for these people? I think that's what I got out of it. Richard, correct me if I'm wrong.
I think it's a bit more than that. I think it's also saying, look, you know, we're raising a fund. How much is in it? Two, what we're doing with it, as well as the points that you're making. You know, at the moment, I just have a note in there that says we're going to put 52,725 quid in a carbon offset fund. If we're not actually doing anything with it, then I'm going to raise the question about its reliability in doing what we, you know, in keeping us on track for what we're aiming for, which is zero carbon homes. At the moment, we're falling short, and I want to know what's happening that this money is going to do to alleviate that.
That's fine then, Councillor. We'll prepare a report for you and forward it in the hopefully next week or so, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine with me. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, in regards to the amount, I think there's a formula. Matt probably knows as to why we can't charge that level. It has to be a certain formula regarding the. Go on, Matt. You explain.
We copy the Mayor of London. We copy the Mayor of London's amount. I mean, there may be a case to do and take our own research into it, but this is we adopt what the Mayor of London says, which is £95 per ton.
I'm more about the totals.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, no problems.
Yeah.
Okay. Right, so let me then move on to Councillor Michael Dennis for comment or debate.
Thank you, Chair. I'm very excited by this building. It's a very exciting novel design, and it looks really pretty. And certainly, from an artistic perspective, an improvement on what's there. I do note the need for this sort of accommodation in the area, and I'm leaning towards approving the application.
Okay. Councillor Bishnu Gurung.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Yes, yeah, I think that this sort of project plan is first in Hounslow, which is very good and exciting to see. But the few questions that I still hang on. That's Sam said that there are 8 rooms accessible. Can you clarify that one a bit furthermore? And is the all equality policy is made? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. So yeah, so there will be a requirement to provide wheelchair accessible rooms within the building. So that's what those are for. And obviously they're slightly larger. So against the standard room, which is 12 meters squared, the wheelchair accessible rooms or the accessible rooms, they would be 18 square meters. But what we've done is we put a condition on which will require the submission of the final layout of those rooms to make sure that it complies with all the necessary standards, such as provision for like wheelchair turning circles and everything like that, so we can make sure that that's secured, and obviously that will ensure that there's adequate provision within that regard.
Okay, Vishnu.
Anything
yes.
further? What was my second question? Yeah, I did ask you about the equality policy. Is that all made?
So in terms of for the wheelchair accessibility or for the development in general?
I'm talking about the gender.
For gender?
That's right, yeah, it is a gender.
So there's no restriction in terms of occupancy, in terms of gender, or however people identify. There's no specific restriction with regard to that, and it's not a specific. It's not hostile for people who identify as one gender or another, or don't identify with either gender. It's open to all people who are between the ages of 18 and 30, with the priority for those as is set out in the report. There's no restrictions in terms of gender or non-gender or what have you.
Thank you, Sam. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, Vishnu, thank you. Guy, over to you.
Well, my only comment is the one that arose out of my question before. I mean, I'm thinking it would be really nice to have the bins in some kind of box rather than out on the street, because looking at Street View, I see the place behind has got bins out on the street, and that's never a great plan in a town centre.
Okay.
But anyway, we want a condition that says what Sam said before.
Okay, so this is putting the condition onto this development regarding the bin housing, the housing of the bins, right? So can I take a vote on whether we wish to add this to the officer's recommendation? So, Councillor Richard Foot.
I vote in favour of the condition, Chair.
That's fine. Okay, Councillor Michael Dennis.
He votes mutely.
Yeah, you're on mute.
I'm so sorry. That's the first time. Sorry, my name's Councillor Dennis, and I vote in favour of the condition.
Okay, that's fine. Councillor Vishnu Grung.
Hi, I'm Councillor Vishnu Grung. I'm the member of the planning committee, and I'm the ward councillor for Hanout Park ward, and I'm voting in favour of this condition. Thank you.
Okay, good. Councillor Guy Lambert.
Yes, I'm Guy Lambert, and I'm voting in favour of the condition.
Okay, that's fine. And myself, Councillor Amrit Mann, I am also voting in favour of adding the condition to the officer's recommendation. Right? Okay, gentlemen, we've had the debate, we've added the condition, and that's been added unanimously. So now we move to the vote. I need somebody to move the recommendation with the condition attached, right? And then I need a seconder. So Guy Lambert is moving the proposal of the officer's recommendation with the condition attached, and I see Vishnu Grung, who is going to be seconding the proposal with the condition attached, officer's recommendation with the condition attached. Right, so we're moving to the vote on that basis. So Councillor Richard Foot, using our form of words, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'm Councillor Richard Foot, a member of this committee and Vice Chair of this committee. I have been present for the whole debate on this item, and I vote in favour of the officer's recommendation.
With the condition attached.
With the condition attached.
That's fine. Thank you. Councillor Michael Dennis.
Good evening. Yes, my name is Councillor Michael Dennis for Chiswick Riverside. I'm a member of this committee. I've been here for the whole debate, and I vote in favour of the officer's recommendation with the condition attached.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Vishnu Grung.
Thanks, Chair. I'm Councillor Vishnu Grung. I'm the member of the planning committee, and I'm the councillor from Hanout Park ward. I have been present the whole of the debate, and I'm voting in favour of the officer recommendation with the condition. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Vishnu. Councillor Guy Lambert.
Hello, I'm Councillor Guy Lambert. I've been present for the whole debate, and I'm voting in favour of the officer's recommendation with the additional condition.
Thank you, Guy. Okay, myself, Councillor Amrit Mann. I've been present for the whole debate, heard all the evidence, and I'm voting in favour of the officer's recommendation with the condition attached. Colleagues, thank you very much. That is carried unanimously, and that item is approved. Okay, so let's move on to what's left of this agenda. The item 8 is taken within the body of the items previously, so there are no additional addendum reports. Item 9, any other business which the chair considers urgent. I've not been notified of any, so I will pass on that one. And the date of the next meeting is the 8th of April. This is another meeting that's expected to be a virtual meeting. So please, everybody that's watching, look at your website, the council website, and check for the time and for details. Can I thank all the members here this evening? It's been difficult because of the IT, but I think everybody's done very well. I'd like to thank also the planning officers who've persevered with us, as well as the ICT officers in producing the meeting, and the democratic services and legal officers who've supported us tonight. I'd like to thank everybody from the public who've been watching this meeting. And with that, I think we need to close the meeting. So thank you all, and enjoy the rest of the evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Chair.